Parker's like, Jimmy, like, this starts with me and you. What's going on? And then Jimmy goes, well, one, you're soft. Two, I don't like you. And he didn't even get to three. Coach Joey Burke was like, well, then you, Jimmy. And Jimmy's like, it's me now.
Why wasn't that team a little bit better?
The chemistry, it wasn't there.
Really?
Jimmy and D-Wade, they kind of were, on their own as far as, I guess, even in practice, even off the court. But there wasn't really a connect, between the old guys and the young. And that was why it was so much friction throughout the year.
The Chicago Bulls are currently in a tricky situation right now as a franchise. On one hand, they're currently in the play-in tournament at the time of me recording this, but there's still a lot of questions about the team and what they're going to do in the coming future. And with the uncertainty that is currently surrounding the team, I decided to go back in time and look back at possibly one of the weirdest Bulls teams that was ever assembled. Now, before we get too deep into this video, go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future videos like these. Now that we got that out of the way, y'all know what time it is. Who that? What's new, IJ crew? It's your boy IJ here, back with another video, and boy, today's video is going to be an interesting video. And if you haven't caught on which team I'm talking about, we're going to be talking about the Bulls team that was assembled for the 2016-2017 NBA season. But before we talk about that team, it's only right that we look back at the 2015-2016 team of the Chicago Bulls. In the 2015-16 season, the Chicago Bulls will finish with a 42-40 record, but that will only be good enough for the 9th seed in the Eastern Conference, as they will end up missing the playoffs that year. The Bulls will start the 2016 offseason by drafting Denzel Valentine out of Michigan State. I'm sorry, guys. I just don't like the dude. And the reason why I don't like Denzel Valentine is because of this play right here.
No.
Oh my goodness, Valentine!
No,
Whoa, no!
No.
That is not the shot at that moment.
That's a horrible shot.
Now let me provide a little context about this play. The Bulls were down by 5 points against the Miami Heat with about 55 seconds left to go in the game. In a game in which the Bulls needed to win to improve their playing status for that season. But this dude thought that he was Steph Curry and pulled it from Steph Curry range and ended up airballing. Anyway, let's get back on topic. The 2016 offseason will see the departure of Pau Gasol, who will end up signing with the San Antonio Spurs, and fan favorites Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah. Now, Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah will both end up on the New York Knicks, as Derrick Rose and Justin Holiday will be traded in exchange for Robin Lopez, Jose Calderon, who will end up being traded to the Lakers, and Jerry Grant, while Joakim Noah will end up signing a deal with the New York Knicks. Now, even though the Bulls lost 2 key players this offseason, they did go out and replace Derrick Rose by signing Rajon Rondo, and they also signed hometown favorite Dwayne Wade as they paired him up with rising star Jimmy Butler. Now, the Bulls will go out and make one more move right before the season started as they traded Tony Snell in exchange for former first-round pick Michael Carter-Williams. The Bulls will start off the season with a 3-0 record, and by the end of November, they will have a 10-7 record. But by the end of December, they will end up having a 16-18 record, and by the end of January, they will have a 24-25 record. Now, before the trade deadline this season, the Bulls traded Taj Gibson and Doug McDermott to the Oklahoma City Thunder for Cameron Payne, who at the time was better known as Russell Westbrook's pregame dance partner, Anthony Morrow, and Joffrey Laverne. To end the month of February off, the team will be right at 500 with a 30-30 record, and at the end of March, they will have a 36-39 record, and then once April came around, they would go 41-41, just barely sneaking into the playoffs. The team will go out to a commanding 2-0 lead against the number 1 seeded Boston Celtics. But when Rajon Rondo injured his wrist, that ultimately ended the team's playoff hopes as they will lose 4 straight games to lose the series 4-2. In what will be his long season with his hometown team, Dwayne Wade averaged 18 points per game, while also averaging 4 assists and 5 rebounds, and shooting 43% from the field and 31% from the three-point range. This season is where Jimmy Butler took over as the Bulls' star player, averaging 24 points per game, 6 assists, and 6 rebounds, while shooting 46% from the field and 37% from the three-point range, while making the All-Star appearance this year as well. Rajon Rondo contributed well with the Bulls in his only season with the team, averaging 8 points per game, 7 assists, and 5 rebounds, while also shooting 41% from the field and 38% from the three-point range. So now that we've looked at the entire 2016-17 season of this team, let's look at some of the reasons why this team really didn't live up to their potential. Now, looking back at this team, I've come up with 2 reasons why this team didn't live up to their full potential. The first reason being a lack of chemistry, which Rajon Rondo explained in the interview with JJ Redick.
Why wasn't that team a little bit better?
The chemistry, it wasn't there.
Really?
Jimmy and D-Wade, they kind of were, on their own as far as, I guess, even in practice, even off the court. But there wasn't really a connect, between the old guys and the young. And that was why it was so much friction throughout the year.
And another key reason was the lack of chemistry that Jimmy Butler had with head coach Fred Hoiberg. In fact, to further explain the rift between Jimmy Butler and Fred Hoiberg, this is what Michael Carter Williams had to say in the interview with the Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Hoiberg is like, Jimmy, like, this starts with me and you. Like, what's going on? And then Jimmy goes, well, 1, I think you're soft. 2, I don't like you. And he didn't even get to 3. And Coach Hoiberg was like, well, then fuck you, Jimmy. And Jimmy's like, it's me now. You wanted to know what I want.
Okay, now that we can look back at this almost 10 years later, as a Bulls fan, I understand what the team was going for. They were trying to build a defensive-minded team where great defense would lead to good offense with guys like Rondo, Butler, and Wade on the same team. You would think that they would ultimately be a better team than they were. But with a lack of team chemistry, along with beef between your star player, being Jimmy Butler, and head coach Fred Hoiberg, it ultimately resulted in the record that they ended up having. So yeah, that's the story of the 2016 Chicago Bulls, and it sucks looking back at it because that team really could have been much better than they were, but it is what it is now. And strangely enough, that team kind of is the reason why the team is in their current state right now, because if that team doesn't get assembled, 9 times out of 10, the rebuild doesn't happen afterwards, and the Bulls don't get Zach LaVine. The Bulls ultimately don't go out and get Vucevic and Lonzo Ball and DeMar DeRozan. So this team kind of ultimately set the team up to where they're in right now. And say what you want about the current state of the Bulls right now, but let's remember, it could always be worse. So yeah, that's the video. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and watching. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future episodes. Love y'all, appreciate y'all, and as always, KGF, keep God first.